Hello there everyone, my name is Taniak and today I will play as the Brotherhood of Cain. This is one of the worlds that is budget insane. It is led by Abaddon, which is the former Sturmo Wiki officer, and after the death of Taboritsky, he discovers that he was actually a Jew. So he thought that if God, allowing, to picked a subhuman, is precisely a Jew, to be his voice on Earth, then he is evil too. So instead he decides to praise the Lucifer because he thinks that he is the only person that can save the mankind. So he revolts in arms with his people and created the... I can't say even nightmare. It is literally hell. Why? Well, because they do some very weird cult shit right now. And they are basically killing very many people, and only the worst SS, like in Burgundy, can match them. And I think that they have all started Earth too. It means only that we have a population on minus, so after the unifying Russia there will be very many dead people. So also construction will be very hard because all of these debuffs I got from the start of Earth. And I can build any civilians, but I can build military factories, I think. So let's get started. Okay, so we got the first event, the Madness Manifest. Nikolai pays down a dark hall, escorted by two men in black silken robes. Their identity is hidden behind thick wheels. All was silent but the soft clicks of his footsteps. All was dark, but a glimmer of his escort candles. Demons danced behind every shadow. The soul of the giant whispered in his ears. The door ahead opened, blinding him with the orange light, a heat of 1,000 burning lanterns. There sat the high priest upon the Gothic throne, peering down at Nikolai from behind his round skull mask. Nikolai fell to his knees and touched his forehead to hollow ground. The roadmen raised their lanterns, and in dry monotone chanted, "Reach Satans, Ave Satanes, Abaddon, Diligenos." Rise Initiate, the high priest ordered. At once Nikolai stood, locking eyes with the slender figure before him. His old commander was unrecognizable. The skin around his eyes was swollen. His gaze was dull, his expression hollow. The man who Nikolai once knew as Colonel Anatoly Monson was nowhere to be seen. In his place only a soulless vessel, sustained by a dark sorcery. Abaddon, the archangel of destruction, the progeny of Cain. Nikolai was silent, straining to disguise his growing terror. As the high priest rose from his throne and placed a dagger in his hand, broke his heart, brimmed with fear, and his soul cried in agony. He gripped it tightly. Nikolai slid the steel blade across his own chest, wincing as he tore a piece of flesh from his body. He clenched it in his fist, hesitating only for a moment before placing it onto his tongue. Abaddon held a silver chain to Nikolai's chest, pressing it firmly against the wound. The blood thickened even as it rushed to fill the vessel. Nikolai grasped the chalice, putting it to the lips that he may receive the Holy Communion. Reach Satanas, Nikolai began, blood coursing across his torso and sliding down the back of his throat. Have Satanas Abaddon, Piliganos. The high priest slid a finger over Nikolai's bleeding chest and marked his forehead with between cross. Welcome, Mitate, to the Brotherhood of Cain. From hell have a new Russia risen. This is only the first event and I am already scared. Okay, so here's another event, the sorcerer's plea. She pulled against the chains, screaming as the masked man lifted a dagger over her. He jammed it into her abdomen, holding it tight as he sagged upwards. Blood and bile seeped onto the markable altar and spattered over the floor. Her screams were reduced to wheezing. Her motions became slow and feeble. "Hear me, Lord," the masked man yelled, pressing his hand against the hilt and cracking open the woman's sternum. "Oh, sweet Lord, hear my prayers." He reached into the chest cavity, wrapping his fingers around her seal-pounding heart. The mask grew as he squeezed. Its tendons tore like fabric, and Abaddon raised in the very cradle of the woman's soul in front of her dying eyes. "I have listened, my lord. With this I honor thee." A symphony rang in his ears. Unholy screeching, he grew louder and louder. "I am here, my lord. I am here." The notes twisted in his head, a concerto of strings and flutes, rising and descending in pitch, cutting out and returning, slowing and quickening. His limbs quacked, the heart fell from his hand. Demons pressed against his skull. His eyes tried to fly from their sockets. His bones were possessed by an otherworldly force. Energy escaped his body. Wells of electricity cracked between his temples. "Almighty Lucifer, where have you gone? Adonai's against defile your soul. The Jew lovers play before his idols. They rally behind his false prophets. Lend Russia your strength. Lend Russia your vengeance. O morning star, give me your instructions." The roar of clarinets were the lies of apostles. Each trumpet blast at an angel's course. But through the degenerate noise, a lone voice still out from below. Abaddon opened his eyes. His attentive gaze turned to hard on the floor. The spattering of blood told the path ahead. Every drop a warning, every smear an instruction. It all became clear. It was not spirits of the underworld, but a shepherd of sin above who must contemplate the new era. The burden of his duty pressed down on his spine. For how could anyone found a new Babylon? And in her was found the blood of prophets, and of saints, and of all that were slain upon the earth. Holy shit. Okay, there's another event. Dark Delights. Never came bread when his fields lay barren, warm sheltered, when his stove had no coal. Answers for why his world fell apart, names of those to blame. They promised to make the enemies of Russia suffer, promising revenge against all who had wronged him. He was suspicious, but he was angry. He was uncertain, but he was hungry. And so Vladimir joined the Brotherhood of Cain. "Warriors!" cried his commander on the eve of his first raid. "The true Lord calls our name, reveals in his glory." His fellow soldiers practically jumped to their feet, cheering and laughing as they burst out the door. And Vladimir followed behind them. Tobacco smoke filled his nostrils. Terrified screams and celebratory laughter filled his ears. Drinks filled the goblets and soldiers sang. The warriors of Cain beat and wiped the assembled slaves, with no regard of their race or gender, Every cry or scream became a prayer for the coming great success. They defied holy icons with blood and peace, snuffed strange powders to summon strength for the battle, treat each other's innate, the swim of the morning star wind. Please. Wait, I need a break. Alright, okay, I'm back. Vladimir's mind was filled with memories of pity. How proud he was to be confirmed. His mother's tales of the ancient Hebrews. The most kind of God reached down to Vladimir. He whose soul was still not corrupted. He whose mind was still bound and by a fatty. But the fires of temptation burned in his loins. The serpent's word coursed through his spirit. Why did God watch as his family was shot? Why did he do nothing as the Archduke trampled Russia, where he was when Moscow fell? Abaddon appeared beside him, the voice of Lucifer himself on his tongue. Why are you not revealing, brother? Have you forgotten what Adonai has done? Have you forgotten our communion? Contempt boiled within him. Years of prayer unanswered, decades of suffering uncompensated. He started into the writhing mass of flesh and sin. He saw no result. He downed a goblet of wine and grabbed the whip. Blessed are who they which are persecuted from righteousness' sake, for they in the kingdom of heaven. I don't want to read any more events. Okay, so here's another event. The pit. Kennedy knelt before his shrine, an image of the Holy Mother, sketched with charcoal, adorned with the cradle candles from scraps of animal fat. It was all he could scrounge without being spotted, on which he had honor to the Lord. The young priest wept, praying between each sniffle, "I am sorry, God. I have tried to maintain my courage, to hold your blessing in my heart at all times, but I have failed. I am grateful for my life, I am very thankful for your blessings, but I am tired, I am weak. I am a coward and a sinner. I beg you for your forgiveness. I am so sorry." Kennedy stood and walked into his bedroom. He unholstered his pistol and prayed he would reunite with his wife in heaven. Oksana held a bucket in her hand, carrying water so that her sickly mother would not have to. A scarf wrapped around her. A blade seraphim lay over her. She held with her head down and prayed that she would go home safely. But she felt that eyes of Lucifer's agents along her back and grinding of wheels behind her. A shrug stopped. A cloud shot her arm. Rockets spilled onto the shield. She could smell the alcohol on their breath, and sense of smells behind their mask. He bound her with ropes, stabbed a syringe into her arm, and threw her into the truck. Varus joined the ground. His rigged footsteps led him behind the line of emaciated bodies. Abaddon's riders led the men like cattle, shambling toward the quarry. Valerie felt a pop in his knee, letting out a gasp as his legs collapsed beneath him. One rider lifted him by his hair. Another smashed his nose with the stock of his rifle. He choked on phlegm and plotted as a plunge his body, too weak to do what anything. But once as bayonet penetrated his abdomen, the other could only continue their march. The broken spirits deaf to the crushing of bone, as they labored without respite. They saw the cross erected at the entrance. Varus' ghoulish body bled from his punctures in his hands, feet, and belly. His head hung limp, and he weakly screamed. The last of his voice rotted in his throat, and his spirit separated from his body. Blessed are they which are persecuted for righteousness' sake, for there is in the kingdom of heaven. Oh shit. Okay, and here is the last event. Babylon. The wind over Omsk blew cold. Families were awoken by pounding at their doors. The Hell Riders had come, herding all the townsfolk to the city center. There lay a great circle filled with sticks and straw, demarcated by a ring of blood. 5 stakes of pine were planted at its edges, and wooden spokes ran between them to form the pentagram, raised 2 meters in the air. As its center stood the Son of God, crucified in effigy, his body built from wood and rope, except that of pig wrapped in the crowns of thorns. The audience watched in silent apprehension as the masked men rode captive from the back of carts. Thieves, captive taken on raid, rebellious slaves, worshippers of the Jew god. Each had been stripped of their clothing, their hands tied behind their backs. The riders marched them into the circle, securing their hands to the spokes and leaving them hanging by their wrists. Some screamed, some cried, some whistled feebly, and some quietly accepted their fates. Some folks whimpered, some closed their eyes or diverted their vision. Others covered their children's mouths so they wailing could not draw notice. For the assembled brothers stepped Abaddon in his ram skull mask, carrying a trident in his left hand and torch in his right, in an impassioned voice, booming that all may hear him. He began his prayer. Holy Lucifer, O Prince of Darkness, I consecrate you a most holy city. Offer your temple upon the earth. Lend your strength unto me. Impart your blessings on the new Babylon. May you silence the foul agents of Jerusalem and take vengeance upon them. O morning star, may your glory be known by all peoples. He kneeled before the circle, and through his torch he summoned the fury of hell. 4,000 voices screamed in terror, their eyes wide as hell rise towards their bodies. Their hair withered, their skin blistered, their very tears were turned to steam. Adonai's screams and mortified cries boiled into the surrounding air. Cacophony of the suffering pointed at Adonai himself. Smoke billowed upward, and hell became manifest upon the earth. The smoke of their torment ascended above the ever and ever. I want to know who made this shit. Forget about Obritsky. That guy right here. He's the worst leader of Russia. What the fuck? Okay, so I think that was all of the events of Brotherhood of Cain. So now I will move on to my another save, from which I will play it, because this is from the beginning and I will have to visit every country, but I don't want to, so I'll move on to another save file. So see you there. Okay, so I am back. It's from the other save file because date is different. So I will enable the sandbox mode and begin the conquest. But I have to prepare first production and units. So I will just record the wars because preparations are boring. Okay, so now I can next the wasteland. I think it should work. Okay. So I think it's broken. Okay, so after the annexing the anarchies, I have the Unified Russia. The defense of thousands of common logic, logistic, and the concept of narrative finality unified this broken, shattered land. Decades before any reasonable attempt could ever be done. And Kingdom of Hellborn unifies Russia. Okay, so now we got new name. We now Kingdom of Hellborn, and we got new flag, which is way better than before. And let's see what will happen. Okay, it seems that it's quite broken, and I didn't get the event, which is a bit of unfortunate. But here we go. I have unified Russia by probably the worst nation possible, which is led by Abaddon, and thousands of Russians, millions are currently dying, as you can tell. So anyway, I hope you somehow enjoyed. It was painful way. By playing first Taboritsky, and then this thing, it's 1980. So tell me in the comments if you want to see me unify Russia by any other unifier, like the Russian Empire or the I don't know, I'm a refugee zone, anything. So nice to meet you. Goodbye.